Welcome everybody. So excited to have you guys all here. It's so amazing seeing all of your beautiful faces. We miss you all so much and cannot wait to have the source open back up. Moving forward, our goals of the day is we're going to discuss the general strategy of open, and it's more of a strategy and less of a plan. So we're going to talk about general timing to give you guys a sense of some dates. We're going to talk about the measures that the source is going to be taking, essentially how this will be affecting you guys when you come into Climb. As well as look internally and see how the staff have been dealing with this, how the source as a business has been dealing with this. So our agenda is going to be broken down into three things. First, we're going to have kind of a general strategy overview from Michael. At the end of that, we're going to, I have a list of questions that we'll be asking, kind of frequently asked questions. And then we're going to open it up for you guys to ask questions. So if you do have any questions, we are going to ask that you just wait and ask those at the end, because we're probably going to be answering them. But type those in the chat if you want to make sure for sure that we cover them. If not, we will open it up for general discussion at the end. And with that, with no more further ado, I'm going to pass it over to what is my right, or left, because that's Michael. Go for it, Mr. Michael.
Awesome, Amanda. Thanks for that introduction. That was amazing. I'm gonna share a screen with everyone. And then it's at the end of my presentation. So I'm gonna have to go jump around a little bit. All right, so hopefully everyone can see the screen. I'm gonna make sure I can see a lot of you also on my screen. So it always takes me a moment to set up. And I'll try to make this relatively quick and painless so we can just get to the questions. Again, to sort of build off of what Amanda was saying, what to expect from today is hopefully a sense of the dates and a calendar, a feel for what it's going to be like when you return, and a look at sort of what our approach is and how we're approaching the current conditions. I want to really quickly, one thing we've been doing as a staff is we meet every week just to stay connected and keep on task. And so these are the goals that we actually look at every week together as a staff. First is just the health and sustainability of the source and the community as a whole. We do that by following state and federal guidelines. We've been working from home while keeping staff on payroll and trying to keep somewhat of a consistent schedule. And the second goal is to stay connected with our members. We do that with member calls, these virtual team practices, member highlights, staff profiles, and we're trying to be transparent and communicate well. We do that with monthly member emails through Facebook and Instagram, events like this Ask the Source, and staying connected with phone and emails. And we try to keep evaluating and looking at this in an 8-week plan to return to some sort of normalcy, but always staying flexible. So we do that by constantly adapting our plan as guidelines are passed down. So many of you have probably seen the governor's plan right now. He has a 4-phase plan approach to reopening, and each phase is expected to be a minimum of 3 weeks. And right now, recreational facilities and indoor gyms are expected to open at up to 50% capacity in phase 3. And then phase 4 is when we can resume all recreational activity and allow gatherings with more than 50 people. So initially, the governor talked about this being sort of a slow turn of the dial with 4 phases, us not being able to open up until the 3rd phase, and then being back to almost normal in the 4th phase. It's not going to be a flip of the switch, but it's going to be a pretty quick turn of the dial. Unfortunately, we just have to wait some time before we can start to turn that dial. But most everyone is asking dates. When is the source going to open? So obviously we don't know the exact date. Officially, we're still closed until further notice. But what we are seeing is right now on the governor's website, they show this diagram or this chart, and there's a little asterisk that says the phase 1 starts on May 5th. So we assumed phase 1 starts on May 5th. 3 weeks later, phase 2 would start on May 26th. And then 3 weeks later, phase 3 will start June 16th. And another 3 weeks, phase 4 can start July 7th. And I've got a little link on there that just shows that we are looking at the governor's website and not just trying to filter through the news. But we are also watching the news. Just a couple of days ago in the Colombian, the Secretary of the State's Department of Health said phase 2 would begin as early as June 1st, which as early as June 1st, that's later than we had calculated based off of that previous chart. I point that out just to say that we don't really know with 100% certainty what the dates are going to be, because really it's up to the governor to make those decisions as they go along. So talking about that 8-week plan, for us now, it's a little bit more of a 12-week plan, but these are the dates that we're going to hope for, and staying always just a little bit optimistic and just being prepared. So if it does come along, we're ready to go. So phase 1 and phase 2, again, we're not going to be able to open up. We're really, we're doing our best to follow the guidelines that are being passed down to us. So what we've been doing in phase 1, phase 2 is, you can see behind me, we've reset the entire gym. We've cleaned the carpets. We've vacuumed the back of all the climbing walls. We've done maintenance, painted walls, painted the parts of the outside. We've done a lot. We've also really focused on member communications by calling members up directly, having an online form for people to enter their preferences, doing monthly email updates. We're answering phone calls at home. When you call the source, it actually just directs right to our homes. We also are staying in contact with emails, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're doing online events like this, Ask the Source. We're doing virtual team practices for our younger climbers. We're doing staff profiles and member highlights, and Jessica's posting regular online fitness videos. So we're also working on how we're going to implement some new operations, really to limit our exposure when we all do start climbing again soon. And to talk about that a little bit, I think we're all climbers here, and I recognize all of your faces, so I think all of us are on the same page, but I still feel the need to say, we know that this virus is something that's spread mainly from person to person through respiratory droplets. And even though we're going to take steps to reduce the spread, there's no way we can eliminate the risk of being exposed or infected. And so the risk of being exposed or infected can result from your own actions, from the actions each of us take. That risk of being exposed or infected can also result from the other people's actions. So what we're trying to do, and the strategy we're going to look at, is really consider first, what's the most important, or what's going to have the most impact, and also look at that with also considering what's the sustainability of the measures that we would take. And this is how we're looking at it as an organization. So hopefully you can see this chart fairly well. We're looking at two things. On the bottom of the chart, see if you can see my mouse a little bit, we have the relative importance or the relative impact of a measure. And so on the left side of the chart, those are things that their impact or their importance we consider are probably relatively lower. They may not make a big impact, or we really don't know for sure that they're really of a lot of importance. Where on the right side, those are the things that we know are probably on the higher side. We do know with more certainty that they're important, or we know with a little bit more certainty that they're going to have a big impact. And then looking from bottom to top, on the bottom side of the chart, those are the things that they're relatively easy, they're sustainable. Those are things pretty easy within reach, where the things on the top of the chart, they might be a little bit more costly or a little bit harder to really sustain and to implement. So we want to avoid the upper left, where those are the things that are really expensive, costly, and difficult with not much impact. Well, we want to really focus on the things in the lower right. These are the things that are easy to implement and sustain, and we know they have a high impact. I put in bold a few of these. It might be hard to see on your screens, but in the lower right, these are the things, again, that we think, using the best knowledge that we have now, these are the things that have a high impact, that also are relatively easy to implement or at least sustain. Looks like someone's joining us. Thank you. Some of those things are increased cleaning, requiring our staff to wear masks. We all have them. Holds cleaned and isolated after setting, doing temperature and symptom screens, adding hand sanitizer stations, using markings or some sort of traffic control for physical distancing. Some things we put in the upper right are one example, and this is again something that we think has a high impact, but also is a little bit more difficult to sustain or a little bit more costly, is climbing by appointment. So actually limiting the number of people that can come into the gym, which is pretty much automatic based on the phased recovery the governor's put out. And then looking down the lower left, again, this is something that's relatively low cost or difficulty. It's sustainable, but maybe a little bit less impact, or we just don't know. And one of those, for example, is no street shoes on the climbing wall. So there's no studies out there that tell us definitively if you put a street shoe on the climbing wall, everyone's going to get COVID-19. But using our better judgment, we know that is a little bit of a factor. Even though the impact may not be huge, the cost is relatively low. That's something that we can definitely implement. So what does phase 3 look like? Right now, the things I can tell you phase 3 looks like is we're gonna have 3 weeks before that July time or before we really get back to mostly regular operations. That's members only, and members 14 and older. We are planning to allow members under 14 that have a parent who's also a member. And so our goal is really capacity. We're gonna do climb by appointment only. And what that means is you'll actually have to set up a time online ahead of time to come in and climb with us. And so capacity is going to be a big issue. We want to make sure that a lot of members can come in and take advantage of this program during that time before we really open up our doors to 90%. So we're really going to focus on physical distancing measures. We're going to have a rigorous cleaning schedule. We're going to promote hygiene practices and require certain hygiene practices. We're going to have a screening protocol. We're going to use protective equipment, and we're going to keep working with some of the teleworking options that we've done as staff to keep our staff working and connecting with members and keeping everyone engaged. So we'll still have online forums for memberships, monthly email updates. We'll still be answering phone calls and emails on Facebook and Instagram, and probably still continuing with these Ask the Source events and member highlights. And then phase 4, if everything goes as we hope and the way the governor's plan puts it, is that's a full return to gym activities. So we expect classes to resume, youth programs to resume. That doesn't mean that some of the measures that we're looking at, those measures that are very sustainable and impactful, that we don't keep some of those in place. But we hope that it looks as much like it did 3 months ago as we move forward. So I think I hopefully moved through that pretty quick for you guys. Now, yeah, Amanda, you have some questions?
I do. Thank you so much for explaining that, Michael. That was super thorough. And I hope you don't mind, I'm going to mix it up a little bit than what we went over earlier. But do you mind kind of taking us through the process of signing up for a session and what that would look like when we want to come climb?
So fortunately, we have a good online system. And so if you've ever registered for our fitness classes or any of the classes that we have here, we're going to try to use the system that we have and exists. And likely what that's going to mean is you can go on and you book a time slot that is your check-in time. And you only have a certain amount of time to climb. I'm not sure if that'd be 90 minutes or 2 hours or less or more, but you have a specific amount of time to climb. But you'll choose the time slot based on the area of the gym you're going to be climbing in. So you might choose to book a time slot in the top rope area, or you might choose to book a time slot in the bouldering and lead area, or you might just choose the time slot for the fitness area because you just want to come in and do a good general fitness workout too.
Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. Will we be allowing walk-ins if somebody is either walking by the gym or calls and says, is anybody in there? Can I come climb right now?
So we won't not allow walk-ins, but that's something I wouldn't count on for people because our goal is to stagger the check-in time so we don't have any lines outside the front door. So those booking times will be separated every 10 minutes and only 2 people will be booking in each of those 10 minutes. So there will be a constant staggering of the check-ins. So it would be pretty serendipitous if you just happen to be walking by and there is the opportunity. So I think really, if you're going to plan to climb in phase 3 during those 3 weeks, plan to be making and booking appointments.
Perfect. Grace, don't worry, I'm going to get to your question. But when we do come in to actually start climbing, will we be allowed to use powdered chalk by chance?
So right now we do expect to allow powdered chalk. We're not, no sharing chalk pots, definitely not sharing powdered chalk. The good news is we've already stocked up with some liquid chalk, and we're going to be getting more and some different offerings. And that's one of those things where the impact of that is open to a lot of questions. But I also think this is a really good opportunity for us to start using liquid chalk and start introducing it and seeing it for all of its advantages. And so we're going to push that as an option for people and encourage people to use it. But we're not going to completely eliminate powdered chalk at this time.
Fantastic. If we are in the Boulder area and we feel like we might need a spotter, will we be allowed to have that?
So that's a good question. Generally, when I think of spotting in the bouldering area, I think of protecting the fall zone. So I think a good spot doesn't involve contact. So no, you won't be able to spot in the old school way where you go up there and you try to catch a person or direct their fall. But I think spotting is still going to exist in sort of the new school way, just through physical distancing. Our fall zones are going to be protected, but you will want to be aware. Don't come in and plan to jump on a V10 and get yourself 14 feet off the ground horizontal, because you will not have a spotter directly under you to push you away from an obstacle if you're falling.
Good to know. And will that also affect lead climbing as well and spotting before the first clip?
So yeah, we do plan to allow lead climbing, and this is one of those areas where you get into that gray area. Our hope is we know our community and we have a lot of confidence in our community. So I think we believe we can maintain physical distancing. You can do equipment checks from 6 feet apart, and then you can spot still on lead by protecting the fall zone. You can still keep the rope out of their fall zone. You can keep yourself out of their fall zone. And once that person's to the second clip, we think you can still also be 6 feet away.
Fantastic. Will I have to wear a mask while I'm climbing?
Yes. So right now, during phase 3, we expect to require people to wear masks. All of us, our staff, everyone that's in here. We're erring on the conservative side right now because we don't know what things are going to look like 6 weeks from now. So I don't expect this. If 6 weeks from now, everything's magically disappeared, we're not going to be wearing masks. But for right now, I think everyone should plan for that.
Awesome. Well, I know that's a difficult decision for you guys to make, and as a climber, I'm bummed to have to wear a mask, but as an employee, I'm super excited to be protected. So thank you for that. Appreciate it, Michael.
Cool.
Kind of moving more into the membership side and billing side, will we be allowing people to sign up for new memberships if they really want to come in and climb and they were not a member beforehand?
Yeah, I think we will. I think we're still going to allow people to take advantage of the membership. Capacity is going to be an issue that we don't fully know. We don't know how people are going to respond, how quickly people are going to want to come back to climbing. So people will be able to sign up for memberships when we open up for phase 3. But our goal is really to try to allow for the turnover so as many of the existing members as possible can get in here in that time.
Fantastic. And have you guys, what do you plan on doing with monthly pass members and 10 punch members during this time?
So 10 pass holders, unfortunately, aren't considered a member for sake of phase 3. If you are a month pass or an annual member, those prepaid memberships, those would be considered members.
Fantastic. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be the biggest question on everybody's mind. Will Kova be at the gym when we come back?
So right now, I don't think Kova is going to be here during phase 3. If anyone's been affected by this, Kova has been affected by this. Kova and I both put on a couple extra pounds during this time from sitting around the house. And so she's always sad when I leave and can't bring her with me. So hopefully phase 4, she'll be back, and we all know she's really good at physical distancing on its own. So, but just not till phase 4.
Yeah, Kova is definitely a master of that 6 feet. So yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for the presentation and for putting everything together, Michael. That's the last of the questions that we had kind of had pre-planned, our most frequently asked questions. So if anybody who is joined wants to ask a question, you can either wave at the screen and I'll unmute you, or you can tap it into a chat. Miss Megan, we will start with you.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see your guys' faces, by the way, or even if I can't see your face, it's just nice to know that you're here. I had somebody message us and ask about the climbing by appointment. They wanted to know if they can book multiple in a week. Like, for instance, could they book Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 7 p.m.? So I guess her question would be, yeah, how many can you book at a time and how far in advance?
That's a really good question. And unfortunately, it's not a question I have the exact answer for yet. What I would tell people is I expect in the beginning that people can only book one event at a time. And we only be able to book out in advance just a few days, just 2 or 3 days. And our goal is really to allow more capacity. Because I know we have a lot of regular members who we love, and we'd love to see them 3 days a week at the same time. But if we have the same 10 people doing that, there's a lot of members who maybe are during this time really busy with other things who wouldn't then be able to come in and climb. So for those 3 weeks, we're gonna ask everyone to sort of sacrifice and find that balance.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. We had a question come in, Michael. When we're booking an appointment and we're doing a lead appointment, do you book it for you and your partner, even if you're not the same family?
Yeah, so that's another really good question. Right now, the pause in my voice is we had a really specific plan before the end of May, and then this came along and we've had to adjust the plan. So it's a little bit jumbled in my head as to how many people, but right now you'll be able to book at least 2 people for a session. So looking at Allie as an example, if Allie and Piper wanted to come in, they'd be able to book for a session together, but they wouldn't be able to book for Allie, Piper, Rowan, and whoever else. So most likely be limited to 2, so you could definitely sign up with your partner. As we get closer, we'll have some more specifics about that, but you will be able to sign up with a partner at a time. Worst case scenario, if people might have to sign up for a session that starts 10 minutes later than you, or maybe 30 minutes later than you, so you could still be in the gym at the same time. You're just checking in at 10-minute increments.
Thank you. And then also, when will you be required to wear a mask on the workout level as well, the fitness level?
Right now, the expectation is yes. We're just erring on the really conservative side there, with knowing we can adjust. It's easier to adjust the other way rather than trying to ask more people.
Definitely makes sense. We have a question from Stu/Austin. Is there any way we can do a video preview of our routes? Apparently he rewatched Hans running around in a box many a time to try and get a preview.
Try to get a preview?
So the goal is to certainly do a little video montage and post that on social media. So you will get kind of a preview of the bouldering routes, and we'll try our best on the taller rope walls so you can get a little excited about what you see. But it will be challenging. We'll try to maybe pinpoint a couple of the highlights, the ones that we're really excited about. So yeah, look for that on social media probably next week. And yeah, hopefully you all get super excited because we want to climb as much as you.
So much. Yes. Very, very accurate. Thank you, Hans. Appreciate that. Be looking for those sneak previews, guys. Another question that came in, Michael, is that from Allie Johnson, is she was saying that apparently in Georgia, they're making climbers dip their shoes in bleach. Have we heard that, or do we plan on doing anything like that? Or sorry, so that's question number 1. And then part 2 is, what will we do if we see a spike again? Do we have a contingency plan, per se, for another outbreak?
Man, you guys have good questions. So I did see that, yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the gym right now, but they had a good page on their website that talked about everything that they're doing and included wiping the shoes off. We don't plan on doing that. Again, that's something where when I look at that chart, as far as the impact, I would probably put it more on the left side as far as impact, and the sustainability in implementing that might be a little bit higher up on that side. So there's no immediate plan. That said, one of the reasons we're doing this discussion a little bit earlier than maybe some other people might is so these ideas do go through a little bit of a vetting process. So we don't plan on doing that right now, but I am watching and looking for those ideas. And then, yeah, one thing we do intend to do is, or we plan to have sanitizing stations, like the hand sanitizing stations, but we're also working on having some spray bottles with an alcohol solution that we can use for just our hands. We know some distilleries are producing, we've already got some hand sanitizer through that method. So those are tools that we might be able to use in other ways, but we have to be really careful in a climbing gym environment because we don't want that to be going on to any of our protective equipment, harnesses, ropes, or even our carpet in a lot of cases. And then the second part of the question, I'm sorry, Amanda, I forgot that.
No worries. Do we have a plan in place for if there is another wave of illnesses?
Yeah, our plan and one of the reasons we've kept all of our staff on the payroll and kept working, and we keep meeting with staff every week is just that. So we can be really responsive. So every week we meet with our staff, we give an update, we talk. Some staff have sort of key projects, and I meet with them every Monday and Thursday, so we can be really responsive. And you can keep watching sourceclimbing.com. When we have major updates, we'll post to that, and then after it's posted onto our website, Megan will push that out through our social media, and then I'll send out a member email if it's really important. So right now, I think because we are keeping all of our staff here and active and connected, we can be really responsive.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And thank you, Ali, for those questions. Those were awesome. Another question in terms of actually booking. So Noah wanted to know that once somebody books an area, would they, so for booking an area, if one person's booked it, only they would be allowed in that area for their allotted amount of time. And then when they leave, that area would get cleaned. Is that the process that you had in mind?
So yes, when you book a certain area, so if you book to the lead climbing and bouldering area, for example, that's the only area that you'll have access to. So you won't be able to book there and then decide to go up to the fitness level and do a session on the tread wall. You'll have to stay in the lead and bouldering area. As far as cleaning the area, we're going to have a rigorous cleaning schedule. So we're always going to have someone on the floor that's rotating through all the areas, helping with physical distancing, but also just on a regular cleaning routine. So it's not going to be a dedicated time between every session because all the sessions are going to be overlapping. But the schedule that I've written out, there'll be gaps in that where that person rotating on the floor can go through the areas and clean.
Perfect. When it comes to breaking everybody into those kind of different sessions and areas, will the top rope area kind of have subsections so that we can make appointments maybe on specific anchors?
So not by anchor. I think most likely what will happen is the top rope area will be available to, I think it's anchor 13 or 14, and then beyond that 14. So when you get it past the red line that we all know into the bouldering area, that will just be lead and bouldering. So if you come into top rope, most likely you're not going to be able to go back and top rope a route that's back on anchor 26, for example. So we're not going to have, we're trying to find that balance between really getting down to specific areas, but also not being so open to where everyone could end up crowded in one area. And right now I think it's not fully dialed in, but I think we have a pretty good plan. And the other thing I'll mention is we're fortunate because our facility, I think, actually is set up pretty well for this. We have an exit from our fitness level. We have an exit from our lead and bouldering area. So even if you're not necessarily coming in and checking in through those routes, you can check in at the front desk, go to the area you have set an appointment for, and when you're finished, you'll be able to just walk out one of those other exits. And also, we're hoping to set up the cubbies and other areas so it's not necessarily restrictive. You don't feel like you're being herded necessarily, but when you come in, it feels really natural and comfortable where to go. So it seems intuitive. So you're not feeling uncomfortable. Oh, do I go? Wait, do I hear? Hopefully it will feel pretty natural and fluid. I can come in here and I can just enjoy the space that I have.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, it sounds like we have a few things in place, and I'm super stoked for us to be able to open. Does anybody, oh, sorry.
Oh, Hans was mentioning one other thing, and this is one of the finer detail points that we've had, like bathrooms, for example. We're planning on putting a cone just sort of in between the entrance to the bathroom, so when you go in, you can use your foot to slide the cone into the walkway, go and use the restroom, and people will know the restroom's occupied, so we can limit the capacity of the restrooms and take turns there too. So we're looking at a lot of these little tools, hopefully, again, just to make it intuitive and natural and not feel awkward trying to navigate a new system.
Awesome. I know you mentioned things like shutting down the water bottle station as well, and some other things too. So
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's a list of all the questions that people have put forward. Does anybody else have anything, any other questions before we end, or any other concerns of something that we maybe haven't talked about, or something that you want to make sure that we address? All of our members are extremely smart, so let's group effort this.
So I see the other gyms in Portland. Just speaking for myself, I don't know about the Portland gyms. I know we were having a conversation with all the gyms in Oregon in our region for the competition schedule next year, and we had our meeting, I think, scheduled for, it was initially in March, and we pushed it back to May 16th, and that's still on the calendar, and I'll be reaching out this week to connect with those gyms, and hopefully we'll still have that connection, that conversation going, and I might be able to learn more. I know Kate Brown announced her plan today, but from what I've seen, it's much more ambiguous about when climbing gyms would open. So I'm not sure what to expect with the Portland gyms.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything?
Crickets over there. Crickets.
Yeah, it seems to be crickets from some of the gyms. I haven't seen anything, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else before we sign off?
Yeah, and we're definitely open if anyone has any ideas to share. And I've said it numerous times, and it seems maybe a little cliche or goofy, but we are available by phone or email. And a lot of times when people call up, they're like, oh, sorry to bother you, but I love hearing from you guys. So if you ever just need to ask a question or have any thoughts you want to share, don't hesitate to just call our regular number. We love hearing from you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, perfect. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for showing up. We really appreciate it. Again, it's always awesome to see your guys' faces. Please make sure to follow us on social media, so that way if we do any more of these, you can join us, because again, it's so awesome to see you guys. And we will make sure to give you guys the most relevant information when we have it. So thank you all for showing up. We appreciate everybody, and hope you have a good rest of your day.